Yeah, it is maybe going to take a little bit of the maneuverability from the Pango away if you're trying to just sort of stay out of the cast range of the Grimstroke, but like you said, you can't ban everything. There's going to be some sort of sacrifice to be made, so we'll see what the Pango can do as DogChamp will grab themselves the Jakiro. That's a hero that, well, kind of seems like it's been taking an uptick in popularity here, just giving them really a little bit of everything. You got some lockdown, you got some nice damage from range, you can control the battlefield a little bit more if the Jakiro can throw out that Macro Pyre, and it may not be easy for them to pull off, but a Macro Pyre can all of a sudden cut down the area that the cut can operate in and make life easier for the Pangolier if you can somehow corral them into a small enough zone.
Yeah, real good magic damage. Not just that, landing versus a melee 4 position just makes the trades even easier. Specifically versus the Earth Spirit, that Ice Path, it almost forces the Earth Spirit to wait, because if you just go in, it's really easy to just dogpile on top of a hero and then immediately get punished by that Ice Path. It's something that I've seen Bloody9 do many times on his stream. It's not the Bane. Of course, they banned out their own Bane, but okay, Wisp. That is a really different approach to take, as well as picking it into the timber size, something that a lot of people really don't feel comfortable with, not to mention picking it into Grimstroke. So they really are going to have to be very careful with their positioning. And there's the Hog, the SMD special. I mean, it's one of his favorite heroes for very good reason. And right now, DogChamp, they've got to itemize for their armor. They are going to be very squishy up until they get the plate mail, the AC, and that's where this bristle is really just going to tear through everyone.
And the thing about the cut is they're so good at taking this bristle, but they're so good in recognizing the opportunity to take it as well. They don't just spam it out. They pick the hero 5 times in DPCET. They won all 5 of the games. So, yeah, SMD knows what he's doing on that bristleback. And on the other side of things, I don't know. We don't really look at the Wraith King as, I guess, a conventional partner for the IO. Obviously, it's a pairing that can still work, but maybe not one of the first heroes that comes to mind when you think of who are we going to pair up with this hero. So it'll be interesting to see what DogChamp can do with it, especially with these lanes. You have heroes like Pango and Jakiro that could get a little bit aggressive. The IO doesn't really factor into that aggressive mindset all too frequently.
It's going to need to be a really slow bristleback and a really fast Wraith King. I've seen Wraith Kings who, they get the Deso, they get the Armlet, they get the Blink Dagger, and then suddenly the bristle just dies. He just doesn't have enough to actually survive through a lot of the damage that Wraith can actually put out, especially when he's going to be tethered, he's going to be overcharged, he's going to be right on top of your face. The only kind of sore spot, I think, for DogChamp right now is they don't have the best partner. As much as the Wraith King IO is really great when it comes to outputting damage, when it comes to farming around the map and kind of getting stuff done, Wraith King likes to play by himself. He likes sending the skeletons out. He likes having vision for each of the camps. And sure, Isle can provide that same amount of vision, but I feel like then your Wraith King, you start to get level starved. You start to fall behind the enemy core, and you don't want to be on equal footing with the bristleback. You want to be either further ahead or just an item up. As soon as you start to fall behind, especially towards that Aghanim's timing on the bristleback, unless you have a BKB, you've got a very short window to actually take a successful team fight. And I think that's where the IO can definitely kite the bristle, but you get anything, any sort of lockdown, any leash that lands, and then suddenly you're just shredded. And not even mentioning what we're going to see from Kits in this game, who I'm going to assume is probably going to lean towards a Spirit, especially with the Ember, or with the Bat Rider and the Viper ban. And then suddenly you've got another problem to deal with, and you have absolutely no lockdown on anyone. And they go for SF. Okay. They've got nothing. They've got... Ooh.
Yeah,
that's for the lane.
That is exactly the kind of completely immobile and non-defensive mid laner that I think the cut wanted. You talked about them sort of trying to shove their opponents in a direction with their mid bans, and yeah, anyone with any sort of save, any sort of maneuverability has been taken away. So if you're DogChamp, you're not going to be able to avoid a gank if it comes, so your only solution is just to try and be so forward in that middle lane with someone like the SF that maybe you can get enough out of that lane before any of those ganks come your way where it won't hurt you as much. But
yep, okay,
it's a big risk, and yeah, now the cut will take the lead on the other side.
No, it's very fun. They triple down on the anti-armor. They've got Pango, Wraith King, and SF. They're going to be able to melt unless the cut get those ACs, the plate mails, those very high armor items. It's going to be a race for armor in this game. Of course, DNM's going to be got a little bit of a leg start there on the Timber Saw, but At the same time, with this SF pick, the cut were looking for an Ember. They were looking for a Void Spirit. They were looking for something like that with their bans. And I think with this Slam SF pick, you've almost forced your opponents to go for the draw in the Lina, and it will be more or less a draw in the mid lane, but just everyone is so fragile. Both teams have really gone for this heavy, just brawling fight meta, and we're going to have to see how it plays out, because this is the type of game plan for both sides where it either really works or it really starts to fail really quickly, and then you really don't have those comeback mechanisms. As soon as one team starts to fall behind, really the best farming tool in this game is skeletons or a Boots of Travelina. There really isn't that same semblance of, oh, we lost the first 15 minutes of this game, but win in 10 more. It's kind of, you lose in 15, your Ancient's dead by 25 kind of game, because as soon as one team loses momentum, both teams are so good at Roche, they're so good at taking buildings, everything's just going to topple.
It's, well, kind of what we talked about in the previous series, right? Teams going for that maybe high risk, high reward. If things sort of break your way early, then you can definitely take advantage of it and seize control in a manner that your opponents are maybe going to struggle to catch up with. But that's assuming you do get that momentum in the first place. Otherwise, both teams may have to reassess the game plan a little bit if this goes later. It shall have to see. This best of 3 getting started. Winner advances to the upper bracket finals for a date with Arkosh, while the loser will drop down to the lower bracket to face off against Simply 2-Based. As we do get this one going, do want to point out though, before we get fully underway, these two teams did meet previously in that DPC lower division. It was the Cut who won that series in the end, but it was a 2-1 victory. So DogChamp were able to put up a pretty solid fight against the team that finished first place in that division. So very much a scenario where either team could sort of walk away with this one as we get it underway, and we do start with a bit of a pause.
Classic, you know, NA versus NA. Always going to be a little bit of pause at the beginning of the game, you know, gotta check the hotkeys, gotta check, you know, the oven, gotta make sure everything's all right. Really, my biggest concern in this game is going to be the Jubei Luki lane. Not because of how difficult their lane is, so to say, but just that it's not the best combo. It's something that I think that making this IO work is going to feel like a little bit of a struggle, and it's something that I would have wanted to see almost a better pairing coming in from the mid lane. It's just the IO and SF, it can get work done, but only in the overcharge. I feel like Jubei's going to struggle to find that partner and stay with that partner unless they really get a huge lead in the lanes. And Jubei, did he scout out the ward, or did he get a little bit greedy?
Took the tower shot.
You know, let's see. Kits is there with a stun, maybe, if he goes for it again. Oh, and they're going to whiff. Okay. Nice ward.
Oh. Yeah, that's a bit of an odd placement. Now, we've seen some of the South American teams put it a little bit further on the actual cliff face, but that spot's sort of a middle ground between those two usual spots, and it's just unusual enough where they don't get the D ward.
Yeah. And of course, no high ground vision for Kits, so he does need to be a little bit careful, but Lena has enough attack range where if he's ever not on his high ground, he's probably making a mistake, but we'll have to see, because at the same time, the Cut got the mid laner they wanted to play against. Giant as an SF to play versus. Giant is always going to be able to rotate mid. If he sees those opportunities, it's a very easy roll target onto the SF, and it's where Ray really needs to be careful, because 1 or 2 deaths, SFs have really just ground to a halt if they find too many of those early deaths.
Mm-hmm. Sort of mirroring what we were talking about with Ryoya in the previous series. You cannot afford to give up any momentum early, because it's not easy to get it back. But you want to see, as you were pointing out, what Luki and Jubei do in this bottom lane. This kind of feels like the lane where they would want to try to put a bit of pressure, maybe not onto Scourge directly, because it's a bristleback. But if you can bully up Pingu, it could make life a bit easier for that Pangolier. But it's a pretty big if, because you have to avoid, again, a bristleback who's going to be coming at you pretty frequently, as you see right there. All it takes is one slow from Pingu. If he gets a point up into the Inkswell, you could just sort of get in there and got to deal with a lot of damage pretty quickly.
Yeah, the biggest benefit of this lane, of course, having Io versus Bristleback is nice just for this specific case. You have infinite power. You've got 2 sticks. You're going to have a lot of mana to play with, if anything. Just need to be careful of what region they actually get sent out here. And once you actually have that Orb of Corrosion, Pingu is the one who really needs to be very cautious because, unfortunately for him, the Swash and the Tether are just a little bit too good at getting out and away from the Bristleback. I think it's where Scourge, we'll see if he gets a value point at level 4, but is definitely not going to look for an early Viscous Nasal Goo. So he will have to kind of just draw the lane versus the Pango for a bit here. Taking a little bit of damage, but nothing he can't deal with.
He should be just fine. You see Pingu coming over, just giving a little bit of reinforcement, so yeah, directly onto the Bristleback just feels like it's not really going to happen that consistently for DogChamp, but well, to a certain extent it does kind of feel like they maybe don't need to be aggressive early, but they certainly will feel better if they do. That was sort of one of the things that got to them a little bit in this previous matchup. Again, we mentioned they went down 1-2 in their DPC matchup. In their two losses in that series, they had a combined 29 kills. In game 2 that they actually won in that series, they had 34. So obviously, if you get more kills, you are generally doing better. But in particular, they were able to get, what was it, about 10 of those 34 kills within the first 15 minutes. So the early momentum for DogChamp really put them in a position to avoid some of the setbacks that really cost them the other 2 games in that best of 3. Obviously, you would like something similar here, but I don't know where it comes from with this lineup, really, unless the cut just sort of step out of line and make a mistake.
Yeah, and of course, that's been the name of the game for DogChamp. As long as this team has really been around, it's always been do well in the lanes. If we don't do well in the lanes, well, go next game. You know, they've been one of those feast or famine teams for quite a while. Just haven't really been able to get that same sort of consistency that we see some of the higher echelon Div 1 teams able to put up. But that's where maybe Stonebanks is just a little bit more of a better fit as opposed to some of their other carries. But yeah, a lot of poking right now, not a lot of killing, just farming across the board. Very indicative of NA lanes.
Nobody wants to take that sort of massive risk in the early stages. If it sets you back, then, well, you've just given up a little bit too much. So, relatively slow in the opening stages here, but to be honest, neither team really feels like they're all that upset with this. Everybody's really farming. They don't have any, at least among the core heroes, anyone who's really lagging significantly behind, although what is going on here in the river? 3 heroes coming over for the cut. They are going to look to push forward with Giant as Rayla Lise is going to get stunned up twice. The roll into the swell. Kits is going to be there with the Dragon Slave, and that's your first blood. So the absolute millisecond we mentioned how slow the game was starting off, there's a rotation to the middle lane, and they take the SF down.
Yeah, and it looks like, yep, Bunny 9 will get the kill there. Doesn't get the kill on the courier, but I was really surprised that Ray actually made that route. I think he almost got baited by his teammates a little there with the TP coming in from the Jakiro, because starting in that engagement, he sure was getting tethered and overcharged by Jubei, but he was sitting at half HP. I think he was really planning on hitting over towards that bounty rune to get the health up first, because as of right now, he really is struggling a little bit more than Kits. Kits has way more denies underneath his belt. It's a lot more difficult for the SF to actually approach the wave. A few of his last hits are also just sitting in the small camp, so he's even at a little bit of a level deficit. But at the same time, at least with that death, you get the bottle refill, you get to spend a little bit of your gold. He has boots now, so he can posture a little bit more aggressively, but you also just got to be a little bit careful. A lot of TP spent, though, so Kits doesn't get that free bottle refill, so he is going to be waiting a little bit.
Yeah, that is going to slow down maybe any further aggression for just that little bit longer, but, well, if you're the Lina, I mean, honestly, you got first blood. That is going to work out pretty damn well for you, and we'll see where Kits looks to go after this, because he's hit level 6, the Laguna Blade is up and ready, and at this point in the game, there aren't too many heroes he won't be able to kill. Maybe they're hesitant to go in onto Stonebank, but you take a look at Stonebank's levels, Reincarnation is quite a ways away, so there is potential if they want to move him around, but it looks like for now Kits is not looking to push off from a middle lane that's starting to break his way.
Yeah, and this is another big benefit of the Earth Spirit. Of course, Giant, he's had relatively kind of inconsistent performances on the hero. Sometimes it feels like he's the next coming of Earth Spirit, and other times it does feel like it's a little bit of a struggle to get him going, but you are going to be giving all of your levels over to DNM, and he has an incredibly fast level 6. I think he is, yeah, about full level ahead of the Wraith King, and that's where it gets a little bit obnoxious for Stonebake to actually stay in lane here, but he's done a good job thus far. Unfortunately, Stonebake cannot win that trade. Skeletons are pretty bad versus the Chakram, and now with the Arcane Boots, Stonebake even needs to be a little bit careful. That stat steal is really obnoxious.
Yeah, doesn't want to take too much damage there because he's not going to trade out fantastically as Jubei. That's a problem. Tries to get up onto the high ground. He was looking for maybe just some sort of D-ward, get a little vision. Instead he's dropped low. Not taken down, however, but he did push right over to Scourge. And Scourge, that's a tower. Oh. Okay. Pushes under the tier 1. Little bit of extra damage. Affords Luki a big opening there, and he takes it. So, on the one hand, you do still lose a couple. The Jakiro went down, and they did lose Stonebank up top, but you're almost given a little bit of a freebie in return on the other side of the map, but now this is a problem. Kits is coming over with a DD rune to steal this stack, and they need to try and defend it. Luki's going to come in with that Rolling Thunder, hitting up onto Giant a couple of times, but his backup gets picked off. Jubei just gets annihilated, and now what can they do? They're trying to get onto Kits. There's going to be Raylalisa coming in with those raises. That is a big one. And now you have to decide. If you're Scourge, do you really want to commit for this fight? They may have had the decision made for them because Pingu, yeah, he's getting hit up. They've got to try and go in now, but Giant will not connect with the roll. He gets close, but not close enough. Raylalisa turns around for another raise. It's a triple kill for the SF. Scourge is going to get a little bit of revenge there, taking down Bloody 9, but just how almost casually does Raylalisa just sort of stroll in, throw out the raises, bides his time to get the mana back, and 3 kills for your SF, and he just walks away from that engagement. That was pretty fantastic for them overall.
Yeah, they bring absolutely everyone. I think Giant thought he could get the roll onto Luki just a little bit sooner, but everything just falls apart. And I think at the same time, Kits was so confident with his DD rune, he thought that he could just right-click down the Pango. He didn't expect to just get caught, kind of clipped on the edge there from the trees, and then suddenly, now Ray is right up there with the Lina, who had consistently kind of beat him to a pulp, and now DNM, he's getting SF'd on.
Took the tower, at least. Can he? Ooh, yeah, he can. There's no cancel.
Very good.
It's the only stun that they had in that situation, the Wraith Fire, so once they see it's gone, DNM gets away, and honestly, that works out pretty fantastically. He took the tower, he TP's out, and well, he could honestly look to continue hanging out in that top lane, make it a lane where DogChamp have to at least keep someone there to prevent the Timber from free farming. So, situation here where you maybe hamstring DogChamp a little bit, spread their lineup out, and see if some of your heroes can find openings like Giant. Although, as of right now, he was trying to stack. That one Thunderhide just refused to move, but still just trying to sort of set up farm for his teammates in the jungle. And, well, despite the fact that he's only level 3, this Earth Spirit can still make plays. He just needs to be careful that he doesn't miss the initiation like he did in that south side jungle.
Yeah, at the very least, with that Sunback on DNM, Stonebake's gotten all this time to farm, push out the wave. He actually gets a safe area because they don't really want to translate this bottom tower into any objective yet. I think we might wait until Ray has his Yules, and I think the Yules just needs to be delivered on his courier, but now he needs a point in a 6, and then suddenly you do have this massive threat where if a hero just shows at bottom, tries to nuke it out, you could very easily get set up on by all these ultimates, and I think that is exactly what they're doing here. They need a camp though, and I think Ray is going to be a little bit pressed here because he doesn't want to give himself up because he does not have 6. So yeah, I think they might take a break here. Ooh. So
Catch
close.
Bloody 9 out in the river. Nice little 2-man game there between Giant and Kits, but that was a sacrifice that DogChamp were more than willing to make. They lose the support, they're still trying to apply pressure in that bottom lane, but not going in for it just yet. Raylalisa did just hit 9. There's the point. Okay. So the Requiem is at the ready, and now they've got a lot more to work with, just as the Armlet is going to get finished off on the Wraith King as well. So it's going to be a little bit harder for DNM to maybe just sort of go in onto Stonebank and try to bully him out, but I want to see really what DogChamp's move is. Do they try to do anything right now with this level, or not the level 6, but the ult on the Shadow Fiend, or do they just sit back and continue to farm? Because, well, the Cut aren't really putting much pressure on their opponents right now either.
No, everything is going to freeze across the map for just a little bit here. I think Scourge is going to want to finish off another item, maybe be a little bit tankier. As long as these towers aren't under siege, there's no real reason for DNM to ever leave his lane, unless he wants to finally get aggressive on the mid-tier one, which he can't really, unless there's a card or a very, very farmed Lina. And I think that's where we might see this farm style just adopted absolutely across the map. The only issue is that everything is more or less going to be made or broken by this BKB finished up by the SF, who is definitely very quickly working towards it, but he also has to make a pretty difficult choice. Do you get the blink, try to get some free kills, especially on the Lina, who is also rushing for that BKB? It's a race for that big item, and whichever mid laner accomplishes his first is just going to feel way safer. He's not really going to be a target any longer, and that's where I think the damage coming in from the carries is going to almost matter more, and that's where this mid tower is also where the fight is more or less going to keep focused, because no one can really push in on these towers. Everything is just going to elicit a response that no one can really deal with. Ooh, 29.
About it. Gets decides he doesn't really want that fight. Bloody Man was actually a little further away from his reinforcements there, so maybe there would have been a window, but if you're Kits, you would have had to sacrifice very valuable farming time while the SF was taking jungle camps on the other side. So, as you said, it's sort of a race for that BKB, and if you're the Lina, you don't want to give up any extra time. But who is going to be the first one to blink here in terms of actually pushing forward? Obviously, the two mid laners don't want to be the ones, but something's got to break here, as we do see the three-man smoke. Lady 9, Jubei, and Rayla Lisa are all going to go on the move, and really, where can they go? They could try to push all the way over here into the west side jungle, and
watch the stacks.
Boy. Sully's here, though. This is not going to be an easy fight for them. And Ray, did Ray? I think he popped already. Yeah. But they do see him, but Luki trying to move mid, going on to Kits. They'll miss with the Ice Path, unfortunately, but the Rolling Thunder hits again. Kits, though, look at him dance, just trying to get away. Luki is starting to outrun his reinforcements here just as his ult comes to an end. And he may be in some serious trouble. He is going to get stunned up by the swell, and DNM even TP's in for the follow-up damage. So they do find that pick, and Luki just, I think, trying to do maybe a little bit too much there. Once you miss with the Ice Path, once the macro's been laid down and Kits is out of it, that may be the point where you cut your losses and fall back. Instead, he tries to press on and does get punished for it.
Okay, and then immediately onto the Ancient stack. It's so fast, it's almost gone already, and there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. It's just a really clean play that the cut set up in the past really minute or so, where Scourge was holding bottom for such a long time. He actually waits for DNM to walk all the way towards the bottom lane before he even shows up in the stack. And then unfortunately, with Jakiro Io, who actually starts your fight? It needs to be Luki, and Luki was not in your smoke. He was finishing his Blink Dagger bottom to actually get it delivered out, and unfortunately, he doesn't get the kill. Does get a nice little pick onto Pingu here, but it still feels like it's not exactly what they want here. They're not getting the buildings, they're not getting the tower damage they want, and they just lost out on the stack. So finding a clear objective right now is kind of hard. They really need to kind of focus up here on what they actually want to get out of the map, because otherwise, you're playing versus Boots of Travel, Timbersaw, and a Bristleback. It's not a farm war that you're gonna win when you have a Pango in the offlane. You just don't have as many cores as your opponents do.
Never going to be able to sort of have that numbers advantage. And now, the other thing about that play, that's two smokes that they used in the first 15 minutes, and not only did they not get any kills, go for a kill now, though, trying to get onto DNM. They're even going to pull in an extra bit of backup with the relocate from Jubei, but it does get them the kill. DNM gets taken down. Now they have a big opportunity to take this tier 1. As that glyph, it'll slow things down, but well, I was going to say it should still get them the tower, but they actually pull the SF back up top, so Stonebank's got to do it alone, and yeah, that's not going to be a problem. So, tower goes down, they get the pick and a little bit of extra map control. Now, Bloody 9, you need to be very careful. So he's going to throw down that Ice Path. Luki jumps in as well with the Swashbuckle, but they haven't taken Kits down, and now, yeah, B9, that's not what he wanted. Going to get sacrificed there, and Luki may be in some trouble as well. He'll try to Swashbuckle out. Does get away initially. The stun from that Inkswell actually connected onto the IO instead, but look at the Roland. Giant's going to push his way forward, drops down the silence onto another two, but Giant's got to watch his health, and he's not able to get himself away. Luki catches him with that Swashbuckle kill, and now Scourge is all by himself. Where's the reinforcements? Pingu and DNM are trying to get over there in time to help out. It will keep Scourge alive just barely, while DNM is now the frontliner, pushing his way forward. They're taking down Ray Lisa. They're going to get through the reincarnation as well, but I don't know if they have the strength to really get him a second time. Yeah, there's the call for the retreat from Kits. They're going to try and get themselves out. Stonebank, though, he wants that stun, but he can't get into range.
Everybody's just trying to do a little bit too much there. I think they wanted to get just a little bit deeper there on Giant. If he gets the pull onto either Jubei or onto Ray, then that dive looks a little bit better. He doesn't just get mopped up by the Pango. I think Luki tanked the roll instead, which made things a little bit uglier, but at the same time, everybody was overextending there. I'm surprised we're not seeing more heroes hit the deck, but at the end of the day, you got the reincarnation, you killed the SF, you slowed down his BKB again, you got the mid tower. I think the Cut are going to be very satisfied with that kill, and you didn't even lose your bristleback. He was able to walk all the way out there, and looking at his axe timing now, only 1,000 away. Yeah, bottom.
Good relocate. Just going to pull him out. May have already been safe, but if you're Jubei, you don't take any chances, and that is going to be the Laguna down. It's only for about 50 seconds, but they will not have that available, but they do want to set up onto that Isle. He brought Luki back with him, though, so this is not going to be an easy fight. Giant still rolls onto the backline, but they've got to be able to deal with the Pangolier, and right now that's just not happening. Stonebank now coming in as well. Giant completely isolated, and they're going to sacrifice him to make sure Kits gets away, although Luki was still chasing, but he's going to run out of time, so all things considered, that goes pretty well. You get the initial relocate play out to save your core, you bring them back in for a pickoff onto Giant, and Kits has to take a step back and wait for another opportunity to push forward.
Yeah, it seems it's very, very seamless from them right now. I think until we get that Blink Dagger coming in from Stonebank, it is feeling a little bit more difficult to actually get onto a lot of these cores. A lot of these targets that Stonebank is finding are really just coming to them and then not realizing he's as close as he is. But we're going to need to see him get involved here, especially with this Deso probably to be the one to finally take a peek at this mid tower. And unfortunately for them, that's where DNM is already very comfortably set himself up, and that's where he's going to stay for pretty much the remainder of this mid game up until Roche becomes the next objective. And there's a DD rune, there's an Aghanim Scepter on the bristle. We are cruising for a fight here, and ooh, B9.
Well, he misses the roll, but they're still going to get the initiation that they want, and yeah, B9 just gets blown up, and 3 or 4 man smoke, maybe that wasn't the most valuable kill in the world, but they picked him off, and that opens the path into the bed. You can see, yeah, Scourge wants in right away. They're just going to try and push for it, and if you're DogChamp, I don't even know if you can put something together. Maybe a blink into a Rolling Thunder from Luki would be nice, but you have to get to the pit without being detected at all, so instead, we're just going to try for the tier 1 tower, but look at DNM pushing his way forward, acting as that buffer, and yeah, DogChamp can't really get much of anything going there. They lose Roshan, and they don't get the tower.
Yep, this is exactly where Scourge wants to be. He's been in this position so many times, especially in the DPC. He has his Ags, he has his Aegis. All he needs now is someone to hit, and you have to run. You cannot fight him right now. You have to wait for, I think, a few more items. Stonebank queued up the Silver Edge just to have any chance of disabling that passive, making it that much easier to actually find those kills onto him. And that is the timing that they have to play for now. They need to wait another 5,000 gold before they can really feel confident of fighting him specifically. But that's where how adept they are at playing this dodge meta. Well, they see the Pango, but too fast. Really nice from Luki. Immediate D-ward, but at the same time, really good reactions.
Get himself out of there, and they do lose that ward, as you said, but they are maintaining a nice bit of sort of vision in this south side jungle. It's keeping the push onto the tier 2 bot in a position where they haven't gotten it yet, but they can continuously try and push that in, and the Cut have yet to really reestablish control on that side of the map. Of course, yeah, DNM, he can just do this. TP in, all of a sudden that push onto the tier 2 really just can't happen anymore. So you may not have control of that area, but you're not exactly sacrificing any objectives there either.
And they have to be a little bit careful because they're getting a little bit split up. 2 couriers get taken out. They are kind of getting run down right now by this haste rune. Oh no, Pingu.
Wow, he's straight gone, and Luki, he's going to go for the Rolling Thunder, blinks his way forward. They're onto Scourge. He does have the Aegis, though. They're going to have to get through him twice, but they could pick him off immediately while keeping these other heroes at bay. That would be big, but instead actually shift focus entirely. They'll go directly onto Kits. BKB, though, activated. Ray Lisa tried to channel out the ult. He did get it off, but not before he actually dies. He will fall, and now the rest of DogChamp don't really have a leg to stand on here. Luki's going to try to make a play. He gets in on the Giant, but that is going to cost him his life. Swashbuckle creates a little bit of separation, but not nearly enough. They'll just slowly but surely take him down, and that was maybe a bridge too far there for DogChamp. You get one pick off, but don't burn the Aegis. You don't get kits. That was so well done on the Lina to just hold that BKB to the last possible second. They bait their opponents into a fight that DogChamp really didn't have much of a chance of winning.
And it was a very desperate channel of the ultimate there, and it hit 3 heroes at the very least with that red queen, but unfortunately, it's just not enough damage. You don't have that much follow-up. I think you had already used most of the spells on your supports. Roll was already gone. It was really just a shot in the dark there, and we got to feel for the first time in this game how strong this Lina is whenever you have a hero like the Bristleback, just having that negative 12 armor on absolutely everyone. It makes these long engagements nigh impossible. You cannot take a fight more than 30 seconds because you're just playing way too much into the Bristleback's field. And unfortunately for DogChamp, it's where these incredibly luxury surplus items are going to come into effect. Looking over at the Shadow Fiend, he really has nothing. It's just BKB Yules. He is really struggling. It's where this blink maybe helped him a little bit, but oh, he's caught. Just so early.
Rolls in. The timing is good. The BKB, though, was activated. So Raylalisa is going to try to fall back. But look at Scourge. He's on the back line. He picked off Jubei. Jubei's done. Raylalisa has to fall back, and this is a shattered team fight. There's really just nothing for DogChamp to do other than get who they had left out of the engagement. So they fall back. It's only the 2 supports at the end of the day, but Raylalisa had to pop a BKB there defensively. That's not great for his duration overall, and the Cut just continue to push their way forward. This tier 2 mid should be taken down.
Yep, and that's where, with that move towards top, it's hard to gripe on it, but they lost their position on the mid wave, they lost their position on the bot wave, and now they have just completely lost ground here. They just have to kind of sit here and wait for their respawns right now, and of course Aegis is going to be gone in 50 seconds, but they are really holding this glyph, and there it finally goes, but 300 HP left on your tower here. They might even decide to back just for lanes, just to be safe, but they've got a full reset if they really need to on the cut.
They can push as far as they want and then just back away and, as you said, reset entirely, and there's just no punishment right now from DogChamp. They don't seem to be able to do a whole lot, and, well, this is maybe a little bit of what you were talking about in the draft with this IO pickup. You've got heroes where the IO, he can certainly help in terms of doing damage in these fights. We have seen that overcharge sort of come into play a little bit, but they're getting out farmed. This is the one scenario you really couldn't afford to allow if you're DogChamp. Their cores all really struggling and behind their counterparts, so...
Yeah, but look at this. You see, he's watching Stonebank farm. He cannot take the XP from his Wraith King. He cannot help him farm with the overcharge because he's just sapping, so it's sad. He just doesn't have a friend. He wants to be that hero. It's a big reason why Raylalisa is only level 14 as opposed to Luki, who's been playing by himself most of this game. It's just the cost of having a Wisp in this game, and I wonder if it outweighs what he's been able to do thus far. It really feels like a really big obstacle that they've placed in front of themselves, and now both teams, of course, smoking up, trying to get this positional advantage. There's a very low tier 2 bottom, something that the Cunt really don't care about, gonna get finished off by these skeletons. DNM even TPing in just to farm it. I think they glyph just so that way they can establish a little bit more control, but this is where you gotta watch the chop. They're gonna cut right through middle. And Luki, he's the best one to spot everything out. He actually has the movement to escape from these heroes, but... Oh, Buddy 9. Ooh. I don't know if you do.
TP.
Nice TP. Ooh.
Ooh. Dangerous game he's playing there, but he does manage to get himself away, and... Well... DogChamp lived to fight another day, but... Their smoke doesn't work out. They at least dodge one, but they don't get the tower, and... Yeah, as you said, I think that is the #1 thing that we're going to sort of look at really across the rest of this game. Jubei does not seem to be a net positive with this IO. It's not really his fault. He's playing the IO really as best as he could be expected to, but there aren't as many situations where the IO actually helps you do what you want to do right now. Although, as I say that, they are looking to make the play on a Scourge.
Nice.
It's a nice bit of early burst damage, and they should have it. They just blow right through him, and now they want a little bit more. They actually cancel Giant's roll. This should be an easy second kill, and Stonebank has got it. Luki,
5,000 gold later. 5,000 gold. The Silver Edge is done. That's their moment. Unfortunately, Roche is still down for 60 seconds, but that's exactly what they needed. More.
Oh, look at Luki going in again, looking to keep the fight going. BKB active. That gets Ray, Lisa, and Stonebank into the fight. They take down Pingu, and now DNM. Can he get himself out? He's looking for the Timber Chain. Gonna be able to get away for now. Swashbuckle slows him down slightly, but yeah, they don't want to go all the way into the base, especially with Kits on the high ground. But they find 3 straight picks, and well, as you said, they had to wait it out, get that Silver Edge up and running, but now that they've got it, maybe the momentum shifts a little bit. They're pushing their way forward. Roshan is 30 seconds out, and well, Scourge is not quite as untouchable as he was before.
No, what I'm feeling right now from the cut is as soon as Scourge is up, immediate smoke, look for another pick. Could be just a support, checking support buyback, seeing if, yeah, B9 and Jube both have it, but that's the exact play that they're going to go for, because now the game is made or broken on this Aegis, because Scourge going for this greedy build up with the AC doesn't have a BKB. We're seeing the greed again really be just doing a number on these cores where suddenly these heroes that are so far ahead are just unable to do anything, and okay, they start to relocate and he's out. They're going to just get an IO now.
Well, it is going to be a useful pickoff for them, but yeah, it should just be the one. And here he comes. Timed it up well for Giant there. They even had an extra stun from Kit, so really there was no way Jube was getting out of that one. But he got his core out. They fall back. They got the tower. Everything's sort of shifting in their favor. You take a look at the net worth and experience graphs. It's pretty much even. Experience, okay, maybe that's still a couple thousand in the cut's favor, as there is still that level discrepancy, but in terms of the gold gain, DogChamp are really right up there with their opponent.
Okay, here we go. We'll have to see if they find exactly what they want. They want Luki specifically, but that's where I think this BKB is just a great choice, not keeping himself beholden to the Magic community from Rolling Thunder, but here we go.
They really
so
just
it
try
begins.
and sneak it. Doing okay so far.
Ice path though.
There's Bloody 9. Yeah, he's in position to scout it out, but needs to get a little bit closer, and by the time he's in position, Roche has already lost 2/3 of his health. They may just not get this. Yeah, not there in time. He'll throw it out now, but that's too late. Giant, oops, rolled into the ice path, so not going to be able to find anyone just yet, but not really sure you care too much about even finding kills now if you're the cut. You got Roche basically for free, and it actually will still find a kill. Bloody 9 is eventually going to get run down and picked off, and Luki, he got tracked down as well. Kits was able to spot him out, hits him with the Laguna for the kill, and neither of those two heroes have enough money for buyback, so the cut really could just push all the way forward. You see Scourge immediately looking to that high ground. His creep wave, though, is on the other side of the map, basically, so no high ground push after all, but they're able to reestablish some control between the kills and the Roche.
Yeah, really the most peculiar thing there is just 3 heroes went back towards this mid wave, and of course the cut had pushed it out. It was something that DogChamp are going to have to respond to eventually, but you give up a free Roche like that, you gotta be kicking yourself a little bit. That was everything. They still had their lead. They still had their item advantage. All they had lost prior was just Jube. I think they really kind of got a little bit too sucked back into their base, just kind of feeling the game out, and now Scourge has that buffer. He can wait another 1,500 gold for his BKB, so he's not really going to be afraid to make any team fight happen, because you cannot afford to use Rolling Thunder, Requiem, Ice Path, everything on this guy, because he's got an Aegis. So this is just going to allow Kits to kind of become the main carry yet again. It's the style that they really like to do whenever they got this kind of player-hero combo. Kits is just as much a damage dealer, if not even more so of a damage dealer, that Scourge is at this point, especially with the AC picked up. Everyone is just going to be feeling the hurt if this lane is able to just A-click in a fight.
Yeah, a real sort of pick your poison situation. If you go onto Scourge, you got to get through him twice, and Kits gets to lay into you. If you go for Kits, then you have a long duration team fight against a Bristleback who has both Ags upgrades. So there's really not a perfect solution here other than just wait for the Aegis to expire. That is a long time to wait, though. Obviously, if you have Stonebank continuing to farm along with Ray Lisa, then things can work out okay for you, but it's going to be a very tense 2 or 3 minutes while they wait that Aegis out, if that is the game plan that they're going for.
Yeah, and they are just going to kind of subsidize here. They're going to take all these outer towers, going to have to fight through Most likely not another glyph here. They just use it just to get the freebie. Scourge goes the hairball into the trees, just seeing if he hears anyone in there. And now, unfortunately, really, there isn't an option. We're waiting for more of those luxury items. I really want to see something coming in from Ray Willis. He just finished a Shiva's card, so he's got a little bit more magic damage to play with, a little bit more armor to let him actually survive, because he has been the main target, the real ire of Kits so far, who just gets right-clicked down every single time. At the very least, there's another big glyph on the high ground, and this tower's full HP, so this is going to be a little bit of a slow push, but I think Kits has a full Satanic coming out, so he's not even going to be the easiest kill with 3,000 HP.
Yeah, Courier is in fact delivering the final piece. So the Satanic's picked up, the BKB's now in Scourge's hands, and if you're DogChamp, we were mentioning before, they might look to wait out the Aegis. Might look to turns into kind of have to. I'm not really sure how you take this fight into 2 lives on the Bristle, into a BKB, into a Satanic on the Lina. There is no sort of weak point for them to exploit here, outside of maybe just going for the supports, but at this stage, Giant and Pingu are luxury presences in these fights. They do not really need to be there for the cut to take the engagements that they want.
No, and I think that's where the cut situated very neatly in their enemy triangle, cutting the waves, being very, very calm right now, not letting themselves get too emotional. They even relocate just to get more split push damage, might even claim a tier 2 here, but in response, they just get glyphed on, and now I think it's going to be the cut looking for the glyph. They know how well this mid tier 3 is as well, so they might just be able to go ham here. And with no threat of the relocate, their backline is completely safe. Everything, all the pressure is all on Luki Luki again, and they saw Stonebank use the Silver Edge, so now they know it's going to be on cooldown.
They do get the hit at least, but yeah, if they don't go all in onto the Bristleback, even with the Silver Edge hit, they don't bring him down, so that's the problem. If you're Scourge, you know the only way that I die in this scenario, or the only way I lose my Aegis is probably the better phrasing, is if everything DogChamp have gets thrown out onto him at the same time, and if that's the case, his teammates are in a position to defend him, so really have to be that afraid. They do have the Aegis expiring in 10, though, so bad news is no second life. Good news is Scourge is going to get it back up to full HP and mana, and they could try to go back in. This tier 3 tower is so unbelievably low.
No, there's really not much that they can do, and of course without Glyph, that the Rax is on the line now, and I think that's where they're looking for a fight before in DNM. Didn't BKB.
Right onto the Timber, nice blow up with the Requiem that actually even turns back Giant. He gets clipped by the Fear. They are able to take him down, but now Scourge is into the fight. Look at that damage. Shubei's already going to get blown up. Kid's coming in as well. Ray Lisa pops the BKB, but he's got to run away. The BKB is not going to be enough to protect him here unless he can actually physically create that space. And he is at least able to blink himself out. Stonebank trying to come in now as well, but they just burn through him. Reincarnation will be bringing him back up and into the fight, and Kits is actually the only one here. They were finally able to take Scourge down, and well, Kits actually didn't have any way out in that scenario. So it looked honestly awful at the very start for DogChamp, but they pull it back, they get all 5 kills, they force out buybacks from the supports, and well, how far are they willing to push this? They do go for the relocate into the top lane to go for the tier 2, but they're not going to actually get greedy enough to go to the high ground, so they'll pull it back. It'll just be the tier 2 tower, but once again, ET, the momentum is shifting.
Yeah, and as is with a lot of Dota games, it's inches. The sentry is misplaced maybe a few inches to the right of where it needs to be, and TNM isn't able to react with his BKB. He casts absolutely nothing and just dies for free, more or less. And now the complete tide has turned. Everything is now going to fall upon these rats, and there's not much you can actually do. It's just a Deso overcharged Wraith King. We've gotten over the hump, and finally it feels like this IO is no longer a liability. You're actually able to make heavy use of the damage that he is giving over to Stonebank, and Stonebank has a full Scotty now. So now this Bristle regen is quartered. It feels like if he stays too long in these fights, then suddenly you start getting shredded, and you can no longer take the engagements really as long as you want to unless you get maybe a break in between the damage coming in from the Wraith. We really need to see Stonebank get muzzled. We need to see him get kited a little bit more by the cut, because until now, they've played so heavily on the SF. Stonebank is just a monster. He has been really contested the entire game, and now he's coming for the win, more or less.
Yeah, and Scourge doesn't have the ability to just stand there and ignore the damage out from Stonebank the way he was for a lot of these earlier fights. So DogChamp are starting to feel pretty confident, and now you did sort of mention it a little bit earlier on. Now that AC instead of the BKB, or before the BKB, I should say, does start to hurt you a little bit more because this Abyssal Blade is not going to be here immediately. That does seem like a pretty decent solution. If you can get that Abyssal stun down there, just lock somebody down and blow them up quickly, then a lot of that threat gets eliminated. But gotta finish off the item first, gotta buy some time. Over on the other side of things, well, DogChamp just keep on ramping up. Luki just got himself an AC of his own, so they are looking more and more for these engagements that they know are going to go in their favor unless the cut can make really one or two very specific plays onto their cores.
Yeah, it feels like the snowball is rolling. It feels like it's getting out of the ballpark, and with a long Roche as well, at least you are able to play a little bit more towards those 25 timings now. Whereas the Lena one matters just a little bit less. It's just going to be more attack range, something he already has. I'd really like to see Kits go for very possibly an item like the Scotty, just to have something to try and slow down this Wraith King when he eventually goes in. But at the same time, we need a little bit more control from Giant and Pingu. We need to see something land onto Luki, because for really the third or fourth time, he's just able to get this roll off. He's able to get the initial kill stacked with Ray Lalisa, and then the fight goes haywire pretty much for that alone. And now, another tier 3. You need to be here. 4 heroes need to TP back on the cut right now, and everybody is back in the base. The DogChamp can do whatever they want now.
Yeah, just a little bit slow on the reactions, and they're going to give this a go. Scourge is pushing in with the Ink Swell. They're going to lock down Stonebank initially. They need to be able to take him down right away, though. They are chunking through him, but even if they kill him here, he's going to have that second life to work with. So instead, they'll try to get Luki. They did hit him up inside of that Soulbind, and they will eventually bring him down. But now here comes Ray Lalisa in, going for the Requiem, connecting onto 2 or 3. They blow up Kits and Giant. Now DNM, not nearly tanky enough to survive through this. He is trying to pop that active on the Bloodstone, and it will be enough for the time being. And they're going to turn this. They hold the line. Ray Lalisa is not able to get out as Jubei did not have the relocate. It was only a couple seconds away. And the cut, I don't know. It cost them a buyback on Kits, but you look at what they get. They blow through the Reincarnation. They get 2 core kills, including that all-important one onto Ray Lalisa, and well, it's not going to move the needle massively, but it does put them in a better position, and you see them looking to check Roshan 20 seconds away, so the timing's not quite right. But considering the death timers, if they check again, they might just be able to sneak Roche before DogChamp can regroup.
Oh, you know Scourge McDuck has the timer. He's making all of his teammates write it in the chat. They're going to know. And in 5 seconds here, I think this is just going to be a real easy Aegis over for Kits. He spent all of his BKB hitting onto Luki. It's exactly what he needs to do, but that's why Ray gets such a nice turnaround. But without that buyback, that fight looks all but over. You would have lost another Rax in the wake of that. But now, got an Aghanim Scepter now, pocketed onto someone. Could be DNM, could be even all the way over to Pingu, but I think Pingu is only 1 component away, so yeah, it will be DNM able to pocket that blessing. But this is cheese, this is Aegis, absolutely massive for the cut to just keep them around, because right now they're dying to single spells. If they have anything to kind of turn the tide in that realm, whether it be buybacks, Aegises, or cheese, it's exactly what they need to try and actually close out this game, because all it takes is 1 or 2 deaths, 1 or 2 bad fights on either the Pengu or the SF, and suddenly this game looks almost impossible, because you need everyone on DogChamp to actually team fight.
If they are down even 1 component there, all of a sudden they're just so much weaker as a unit. So the good news, at least, is that they were able to create a little bit of space for themselves, right? They took most of mid, they got the tier 3 tower down bot, so that is going to afford them the slightest of advantages, but they've got to win another fight. It's really that simple. You see Stonebank, ooh, not quite able to get it. He got the tome for himself, trying it to hit that level 25. So if he can get that last little bit of experience, get himself the talent before the next fight breaks out, then obviously they're going to be in a better position. But you see right now, DogChamp, they're hesitant to move out. I don't want to use the phrase scared, because, well, obviously they are going to make the move, but only under the cover of that smoke. So 5-man smoke play. The question is, what route can they take that's actually going to get them into any position to gank their opponents right now? They're going to try to cross over the river, but there's no one in that south side for them to hit.
No, and unfortunately for DogChamp, Kits gets an illusion rune. It's one of the rare cases where now you have these just 3 illusions pushing pressure onto a creep wave, and if anything, They got to be careful because once this wave gets cut in, that's where you look for the chop coming in from the cut, and then suddenly you lose a big hero. You blow everything on someone, and then everything looks incredibly difficult going forward. And they're trying to go for another push here. They're trying to be confident. Hits 25 on Stonebank, so he has so much more damage. 2-second Mortal Strike. At the same time, though, you gotta just play on these high grounds. You cannot afford to give up a kill here, especially while you're farming a lot of those buybacks on either the supports or on Lukey, who is still only 500 gold off. Then maybe I can see them getting a little bit more loose, a little bit further out, because they're definitely losing the split push game right now, but at the very least, everyone is still alive. We're seeing kind of a pause while this Aegis is up on kits.
Look at the items coming in. The Ags is finished off for the Grimstroke. Meanwhile, they've got the Abyssal Blade up, and what is going on with Kits? Is he... Oh, just doing a little bit of scouting there, actually, and where are they going to go? Into the river as Giant... Oh, Giant gets blown up, but on the back line, they're going to look for Jubei. They can't get him just yet, but the final right-click does come through. Jubei taken down. Giant, meanwhile, buying back immediately, recognizing this is a much larger fight as Lukey, he actually got stunned up there, dropping low. He's got to use the rest of his Rolling Thunder just to get away from the engagement, but he may not actually be out. Giant tried to catch up to him, but the BKB does allow the Pangolier to fall back, but fall back is the operative phrase there. DogChamp, they really don't get much of what they wanted. They pick off the Earth Spirit, but he buys back, and now they can't recognize their opportunity. They're going to push their way forward. They get the stun of the Stonebank. They're going to lock him down, killing him off the first time. Actually, they haven't done so yet. Look at Jubei coming in for the heal, keeping his teammate up and running. Giant and DNM are the ones to go down. Kits loses his first life. And all of a sudden, if you're the cut, how much further do you want to go? Stonebank did lose the first reincarnation, but he is immediately on to Scourge, dishing out the damage. Lukey in to finish it off. Scourge has been taken out. He actually did use the cheese in that fight as well, so really... 2 lives on the Bristle, you finish him off. 2 lives on Kits, he's able to run away, but he has to use that Aegis, and I think he was going to get picked off on the very back end of that fight, and all of a sudden the cut, they have no buybacks. Every single one has either been used or is unavailable, so Kits may have to do some hero plays here, but he is going to run into Ray Lisa. Can he actually get this kill? He's going to go in with the Laguna. Ray Lisa pops the Yules. That Yules really didn't do a whole lot, and yeah, that's unfortunate. Kits is just able to track him down for a bit of a freebie, but now he's got a TP back to Stonebank. He doesn't really need his teammates here. He can just keep pushing forward. He cleans out that range Drax. DogChamp are looking to reclaim their lead at this point, knowing that the cut can't really get back into it.
And it is highly unfortunate. If they knew, if the SF was with them, the game would just be over almost right now. It would have gotten glyphed out on the tier 4s. I think Stonebank is going to go for the Megas instead, which is definitely much safer. But with 3 heroes on deck and no options, then this is just going to be more or less the Mega Creeps. They are probably going to glyph here. DNM's going to throw some chakrams out. He's going to try and be obnoxious, but we'll have to see how hard Stonebank really wants to push it, because worst case scenario, he's got a Wisp. He can always get out. He can always get reload. And it looks like they're going to be happy with the glyph just because now they have a win objective. If they take any fight, if they get too many creep waves in, they just overcharge Stonebank, they get the Megas, and then it's absolutely for free. And now I believe this is going to be a full Abyssal Blade finished on Stonebank as well. So the death out of the Silver Edge is just terrifying. Anybody that gets found is just very likely to die, and this is the way that they kill Kits. If they find him with any of their stuns, they only have 4, but at the same time, they are so lethal. And really, when that high ground push went awry, that was the 3-man Ice Path from B9. He hit the one Ice Path that he needed to hit in the entire game, and then suddenly everyone is stunned. They just got completely massacred by that. I think the cut, they're feeling pressured. Looks like they're going to do a desperation smoke here, but they run into this high ground in the wrong way. It could just all be over incredibly quickly because, like you said, no one's got by. Everybody is playing with nothing right now.
And this play has to work, and it has to be a clear win for them as well. They can't just sort of claw their way to a kinda sort of victory. If they don't take it cleanly, they won't have the manpower afterwards. So that does mean they have to be a little bit hesitant, and at this point, hesitant basically just means we're not going for it. They've moved into the north side jungle, but they're not going to go any further than that. They want control of this area to try and go for the next Roche. Still 90 seconds out, but, well, obviously you're in a better position to succeed with Aegis and Cheese than without it. They did still lose that previous fight, even when they had both in their hands, but if you try to take this engagement without it, you are going to be basically fighting with one hand tied behind your back. So they're willing to wait it out. We'll see if DogChamp slowly make any sort of rotation into that area to contest.
And I think the reason that they're not playing in the lane that they need to get out right now is solely because these are their only wards on the map. They need to wait either for Bloody Nine to feel confident enough to make an attempt over and cut off their opponents in the triangle, or they're going to keep on playing to their guns here. They've got 2 fantastic high ground wards. They know there's really no possibility for them to die like that. Interestingly enough, Stonebank has swapped out his boots over for a Blink Dagger, which is definitely a smart choice, but it also means that if he gets caught off guard, there's a very real possibility where there is a bootsless, blinkless, BKB-less Wraith King stuck in the middle of the fight where he is not able to approach this Bristle or this Lina. It's a very big gamble, but they're kind of double downing on this idea that if we find anything connecting, that hero is dead instantly. That, as well with the Abyssal Blade, he can almost solo kill anyone in this game. He just needs to find the vision to actually get that target. I think, again, we might see this game kind of come to a pause for a little bit, and I think that favors the cut just a little bit because you do have that buyback on kits coming up now, but we see DogChamp, they're trying to boot up their opponents here. They're going to look for something a little bit more forward, and Lukey, oh, Ray.
They're in. There's going to be the Requiem trying to get onto DNM. He is pretty tanky. Can actually bring him down. BKB is going to be activated. DNM is going to just Timber Chain away. Kits, he got kind of far forward there, but he continues to hold that BKB. Stonebank, though, sees his moment. Going in, looking for Scourge. They need to be able to blow him up. They don't have the Requiem to do so, though. So Scourge is going to survive. Stonebank is the one starting to drop low, and now Lukey, he's just got to sort of act as the distraction, really, more than anything else. Getting himself onto that backline, trying to sort of peel some of those heroes away. DNM, though, will not be deterred. He's going forward, but forward into what? There's no teammates to help him. He takes down Bloody Nine, but it costs him his own life. Giant gets blown up immediately afterwards, and over on the other side, Lukey was able to get away. That was absolutely perfect. He splits the entirety of the Cuts lineup. They needed to maintain cohesion. Instead, they get a little bit greedy there. DNM wanted the kills, and it is going to cost him. He has a buyback, but same can't be said for Giant.
And they focused so much damage into the Pango during his roll. Again, everybody split away from him, nothing latched, so we see another Grimstroke ulti whiff, unfortunately for the Cut, and with the build that Kits really currently has, he just doesn't have enough damage. There's no Daedalus, there's no MKB, there's no kind of raw DPS coming out from the Lina right now. He's very survivable and he can hit you from across the river, but if he can't actually finish off these targets without the anti-armor coming in from Scourge, then he's not really doing very much. And for the first time in this game, I think DogChamp might actually have the big advantage coming in from just taking the map away from their opponents right before the Roche comes up. And I don't know how you're going to deal with an Aegis, a Cheese, a Refresher Shard. Everything is going to be now put on the pressure of the Cut. What can the Cut actually do once you have all of these boundless resources that DogChamp can just get after holding that triangle control for maybe another minute more?
They wanted to go for the smoke, but Scourge immediately popped, and now they're going to try and jump in onto him. They have to try and keep him alive. They can't do it. Scourge taken down. Does have a buyback available, and at this point, they want to hold for as long as they can, because if DogChamp don't actually go in for a fight here, they could afford to hold it, but they realize they're losing their final lane of racks. They have to go in. There's the buyback. They're going to isolate the Wraith King from his teammates, kicking him further into the base. They've taken him down once. Can they get him again? There's going to be the Abyssal Blade stun. They are trying. Wraith King dropped low. Wraith King taken down. No one really even came in there to try and help him. I thought maybe Jubei could go for something, but didn't have the relocate, so Stonebank gives himself up. They get the tier 3 tower bot. They were able to sort of make sure they cleaned out, or tier 3 top, excuse me, while they cleaned out the bottom lane. So it's a little bit of chip damage being done, but now the consequences. You went for that play, you lose Stonebank, and your opponents are going to push into the Roche pit and get literally everything you could possibly get from Roshan.
And that's an A for you right there. It's a game of overextensions, and the solo Wraith King with the DD rune nearly killing your racks gets punished by a buyback from Scourge, and then suddenly we're almost right back where we started.
Whoa.
And now, yeah, Scourge, he's a hungry boy. He just ate both of them, I believe. Which is...
And Kits... Wait, he didn't give that to Kits? Kits has a rapier.
Kits does have a rapier, but I think I did see Scourge just evaporate some ags there. I think he might have sold the other one, but at the same time, we'll have to see what happens now. Because like you said, rapier on Kits, it's time. This is the damage that they've been lacking. This is the flaw in his build that he has decided to fix with this item purchase, and It's time. 22 seconds on Racing. They've struck at the perfect moment. He cannot buy back with 15 left. It's just a horrible feeling in any Dota player. You're not going to do it. You're going to wait it out now. And will it be enough? Because this is incredible structure damage, and they're not going to glyph. Okay, they will do it now, but at the same time, oh, what a perfect timing to strike.
Yeah, they found that timing. It's kind of incredible that it all worked out so perfectly for them. And now they might want to fall back. They've got creeps sort of hacking away at their tier 4s. Need to take care of that. But you've got 2 lives on your Bristleback. He's working with the Aegis. You've got, well, not an immediate save on the kits, but still working with the Satanic and a BKB. And that Satanic suddenly becomes quite a bit more interesting in terms of a defensive maneuver when you've got the damage of a Rapier to back it up. So you have to kind of go all in on the kits, but that presents DogChamp with the same issue we were talking about earlier in this match. If you go for the Lina, Bristle is going to hurt you. If you go for the Bristle, Kits is just going to machine gun all of your heroes down.
And that's where in DogChamp's comms right now and their team, they're saying to each other, how are we going to get on this Lina? And actually Scourge is walking up.
Wow.
He's just the bravest man in the world, but I guess without a care, he is just already here. He's going to kill this ward pretty much instantly and might even kill Jakiro while he's at it. Yep. See ya.
Take an easy
and
kill.
Stonebank.
So yeah, Stonebank, you can't be there. Reincarnation's going to come down, but DNM, never mind, he did use the Scythe earlier on, so Stonebank is not going to get immediately locked in place. They'll go for Scourge first, but if they do bring him down, that's going to be the Aegis coming into play. Meanwhile, Kits, big bad Lina coming up from the side, looking to start dishing out that damage. Who is he actually focused in on? He's going to take Bloody Nine down first. No, he's not. Didn't quite get the kill. Bloody Nine's able to sort of limp away, and this is something that Cut needs to sort of avoid. They are spreading out a little bit too thin. You see them trying to come back together to go in onto a singular target, and it will be Jubei that they pick up. That is very nice for them. They cannot afford to get too far separated as they did in some of those previous fights. They regroup. Maybe Jubei is not the most valuable kill in the world there, but if you spread out much further, then you're in danger of an overextension that maybe loses a Rapier. So instead, they bring it back together. They get the kills. They force out some big buybacks. Rayla Lisa's in particular is going to be huge because that SF is still really not that survivable. If that BKB is not available, he just gets blown up.
Oh, and here we go. The stun landed.
They got the Hex onto Kits, though, so the damage isn't there immediately. Rayla Lisa's going to try for and get the ult, so that's a nice little sort of reset on that play. And the Cut don't want to go back in. They see Stonebank there as well, so that would have been maybe a little bit too far for them. But now they've got all of their heroes hanging out around the outpost with the full 5-man up. They may look for another engagement, but Scourge, I mean, he doesn't have the Aegis to fall back on this time, so you do have to be a little bit careful, and you do need to keep sending someone back to take out these creep waves, because it did finish off one of the tier 4s.
Yeah, someone always has to come back now. More or less for the Cut. Usually that is just going to be DNM. I think he doesn't have a Boots of Travel slot right now, but he's going to get by. This Andisk has just done so much work for him. He's been able to stay alive so much longer, and without any Nullifier in sight, it's not like he's ever going to be too afraid of these heroes. And now it's almost the shoes on the other foot. Of course, Bristle doesn't have a slot. I guess he could have a slot for an item like the Blink Dagger to find that kill onto Ray, but we still need that initial stun, whether it comes from a rolling boulder or if it's coming from the Hex on DNM. This Hex might just spell the end of the game for DogChamp. All it takes is one target who doesn't get Force Staffed, who doesn't get Glimmered, and then suddenly the game could end incredibly quickly, especially with how much damage that both Kids and Scourge are doing right now. Heroes are getting 5-shotted at this stage of the game, regardless of their armor. And here we go. It looks like the teams are going to clash in a few seconds here, but pops the gem, puts it on the ground. Is there a smoke on Pingu? I think they're actually out of smokes right now, but at the same time, both teams, they kind of want this game over with. They want to find that initial kill, and Stonebank knows how strong he is. Of course, he did lose his reincarnation in the previous fight, but if he can actually get somebody and kill them 100-0 with the break, everyone but the Timbersaw is just a target. It's just now he's really struggling to get out once he gets into these fights.
Both teams knowing at this stage, all it takes is one mistake. If you're the team that makes it, you could lose the game. If your opponents can be forced into it, then that can just straight up get you the win. I did not realize that's where they had left those items. Wow. The cheese and the shard had just been sitting in the pit. I thought someone had sort of grabbed him and used him, but no. They left them in the Roche pit, figuring DogChamp aren't going to check there. Now they're able to pick up both, and well, how do they play this? Cheese in the Bristle's hands. It was the Giant Earth Spirit who picked up the Refresher, so maybe they're going to be able to trick DogChamp. They didn't see any of those items in that previous fight, so they may not think that they're available, just as I did, and now they've got their target. They're going to jump in directly onto Luki, blowing him up. There is a buyback on that Pango, one of just 2 available for DogChamp, but these are not the kind of resources that you want to just blow willy-nilly right now, and Luki's got a decision to make if the cut push any further forward.
And not just that, DNM just picked up the game-ending item here. He's got a Wind Waker now. Anyone who gets Blink Abyssal, anyone who gets Blink Yules, of course, needs to be pretty fast on that Arcane Blink, but at the same time, he can save the big target, especially if he gets caught in it alongside with them. Just having that Aeon Disc, now one of these cores is going to get their BKB up, is going to get their Satanic off, and we're still not seeing that same level of growth, especially on the cores. Ray got a BKB, or rather a Scythe of his own. He's looking at a Refresher now, just so he has twice of all of his spells, but at the same time, we're still so reliant on the Disable. We're so reliant on actually enabling our Wraith King, but it just hasn't happened yet. And he's got a Divine Rapier of his own queued up. Don't know what he'd slot out. Maybe he slot out his Scotty just to try and one-shot someone, but this game is getting closer and closer, and Kit's, he's up. There we go.
They're going to hit him up, but there's that Wind Waker coming through that allows the BKB to activate, and they're just going to go to work, dishing out the damage, looking to take down Rita Lisa first. They haven't finished him off just yet as his own Yules comes in, keeping him alive for the time being, but he's still hexed up, still dropping low on the back line. They'll finish him off. They get onto the Jakiro as well. Bloody Nine will fall, and now Stonebank doesn't have any reinforcements. Jube's doing his best to keep teammate healed up here, but it's not going to be enough. Stonebank is still dropping. He's not dead yet, though, but they do get him. The reincarnation wasn't available, so he immediately has to buy back, but at this point, it's feeling like it's just not going to be enough. DogChamp rapidly running out of bodies to throw into this fight. They've got Luki and Stonebank up, but is that enough? You're going up still against the full 5-man. Look at DNM, just sort of acting as the goalkeeper, forcing them back into their own fountain here while his teammates try to clean up the rest, and Stonebank, you can't be there.
Yeah.
That's it?
That's it.
Not sure he would have been able to save the day anyway, but he's just one step too far forward. DNM punishes him, and the cut blows out the win. Weren't too sure they were going to be able to pull that one off the whole way through, but do manage to get the win when it counts.
And really, it wasn't clean. It was anything but clean. It was something that they had to work for and claw for and really bring themselves up and down and up and down. But if anything, I think DogChamp just around their Roche, their decision-making around the Roche pit just kept on failing them. I think they gave a few too many freebies over to the cut. They gave them opportunities that we saw earlier today, just gifted to their opponents after getting a sizable lead, after getting an item purchase. It felt like so many times we were finally going to see them actually punch back, take their opponents out for the final time, but just lapses in communication or execution that just drop the ball, and then suddenly the game is 50-50 again, and then they win another fight, and then they don't push their advantage enough, and then another 50-50 goes. And I feel like that's what this game was. It felt like a coin flip for so much of it, because both teams just kept on having a lead, going too far, and then seeing what they did and getting punished for it. Specifically, Stonebank just solo on the Rack's top. I feel like there's so many instances where they just play a little bit slower, they think a little bit harder about what they're doing. They really had their opponents in this game, but they just don't do the safe play. They get punished. Specifically, I think Kit's just really worked everyone in this game. I mean, 3 deaths, he had almost a flawless Lena game. He was really playing out of his mind, and then eventually, after that Divine Rapier, he did exactly what he needed to do. He became the monster that nobody could deal with, and if DogChamp don't find that initiation, they lose. And then the Wind Waker at the end is just the cherry on top. No idea about it. They lose because of it. Ray doesn't have buyback. GG.
Yeah. It took every last bit that the cut could put together to get that win, but they do manage to get it, and yeah, as you said, it felt like a coin flip, and in games like that, it just comes down to who can win really 2 fights in a row. They were just trading back and forth over and over again, but the cut eventually do get themselves the victory. So they walk away with a hard-earned victory here in Game 1 that puts them up 1-0 in this series. Question now is whether they can follow in the footsteps of Arkosh and try and turn that early lead into a clean 2-0 sweep. Although, based on what we saw here in Game 1, DogChamp certainly aren't going to make it easy for them. But we shall see what changes Game 2 has in store, what adjustments these squads will be making as we move into that second game. We are going to be stepping away for just a moment here to take a little break, but when we return, game 2 of the cut versus DogChamp.